Welcome back to John De Silva Photography, where everything I talk about is about photography. Today I am in the middle of St. Mark's Square, but I've got some great pictures coming up that I'm going to discuss and talk about with you, and hopefully that discussion will yield results for you making better photographs, and they are helpful. But I just wanted to let you have a glimpse at St. Mark's Square early on a Sunday morning, where there's hardly any people. You do not see St. Mark's Square in Venice like this hardly ever, unless you get up with the pigeons. So anyway, let's get on with the images. I will see you after the discussion. So take note, watch, and I'll be back momentarily.
Iguazu Falls provided several challenges to making my photography. One challenge is that the entire area around the falls is misty. From marginally to almost completely obscured, mist was an ever-present component of the falls. Ultimately, my focus began to shift a little from the falls to other subjects found in the area due to the difficulty the mist was creating. And one of those subjects I shifted to were the butterflies. Now, this first image is of a butterfly that landed on the back of my hand almost immediately as I entered the falls trail. It stayed there for a very long time. As a matter of fact, during the entire visit, there were a lot of butterflies that landed on me. And this one was made as I was holding the camera as close as I could without scaring it off, keeping the camera steady and focusing on the butterfly while making the photograph. Now, I'm not used to photographing in this manner, something that's right on me. So it was a little strange. Now, another challenge is the vegetation overgrowth. There are many viewing places along the trails to enjoy and to photograph all the different falls that you will see on the Argentina or Brazil side. However, there is quite a bit of overgrowth that is going to partially or completely block your view. It's like the mist. It really obscures what you're there trying to enjoy and make a photograph of. But anyway, making a photograph of the many falls spread throughout the park will prove difficult due to this overgrowth. This second image is an image of a waterfall where the mist was manageable. I actually used the vegetation for a good reason, and that was it created a great frame. And in the background, you can see the river that feeds the waterfalls right at the top. You can relieve some of the overgrowth problems you will face by finding the widest openings through the growth that are also in an ideal location. Now, the next image is yet another butterfly of a different variety. It looks like it has an 89 on its wings. It's black and white when the wings are closed, and when they're open, it's a bright red on either side. Luckily, it landed on a very light surface and was easy to make a photo of. I used a very shallow depth of field, probably f2.8 or f4, so the butterfly is very sharply focused, but the space before and after it is quite soft. That way, the viewer's focus is right there on the butterfly and the butterfly only. The animal in the next image is a coati. There were quite a few of them in a little pack foraging around in the undergrowth. Now, these took a lot of patience to photograph because the park is full of tourists and you have to work around them, and the coatis were in the dark shadows and moving constantly in vegetation taller than they were. It was work to get a sharp, unobstructed image of them due to these conditions. The butterflies pretty much presented themselves for easier photography, but these animals were unconcerned about their positioning, their movements, having their photographs taken, so there was a lot of patience involved in getting this one image. But as you know, you have to have a lot of patience whether you're doing wildlife photography or landscape photography. Now, this one was cropped in to bring the coati's features more visible. And with today's cameras, it's easier to do this without losing too much of your image quality. The next image is going back to the falls. It's framed using the overgrown vegetation. And this is a situation where the overgrown bushes and trees were actually helpful, as not too much of the subject was blocked. You can move around, look for the best openings, basically what I did all day, and maybe holding the camera up high or low. But there's only so much I could do to compensate for the considerable overgrowth. But this turned out to be a pretty good shot from the Brazilian side. The day before on the Argentina side was pretty much just blanketed in mist. Then the sun came out and it helped burn off some of the mist, and then the winds picked up too, pushing some of the mist away. But you're always probably going to have a certain amount of mist around waterfalls, especially those that have such a high volume of water pouring over them like Iguazu. Now going back to the butterflies in the next image, yet another variety of butterfly. Sometimes a butterfly just sits there and lets you photograph. It's a beautiful thing. Take as many photographs as you want while others flit around. You get ready to compose your photograph and it takes off. It can be very frustrating. So there is some patience required, but this one sat there long enough for me to get this beautiful image of the black wings with that bold orange bar going across it. The next image is the same location. Iguazu Falls is home to a number of varieties of butterflies. And this one's a beautiful butterfly that was lit really well by the sun and sat on that cool green colored leaf. I was just fortunate to be there at the right time and it wasn't moving. The next image gives you a pretty decent idea of the mist situation that I faced at Iguazu Falls. I can hear the roar of the crowd looking at this picture. It's just loud, and the closer I got, it just becomes deafening. But you can see the multiple falls in the background with this one in the foreground here. And then behind it, there's a set of falls yet at another level. They're just all over the place. I'm making sure I keep my lens dry, and you have to keep your lens dry in these wet environments. I don't want any drops on my lens because that'll negatively impact the quality of the photographs. It'll soften your images and make soft spots and just you won't have a sharp image. So the next one is again a collection of falls. Here you can see the man-made decking that goes across the water for people to go out on, and also gives you an idea of scale. You can see the tiny people there against the huge size of these falls. At this location, the water passes under you, and you are going to get wet out there. And I did not go out there for that reason. I did have a rain sleeve on my camera, but I didn't think it was necessary to go out there for photography. I knew what the photograph was going to look like from there, and I was not going to be satisfied with how the image looked. So I didn't bother going out. I was much closer at some point when this image was taken. Again, I used the vegetation to frame the falls and the mist and the people out there, but yeah, this gives you a good idea of the mist that I dealt with. The next image I made in portrait orientation. The color of the water is brown, and there's a little bit of mist only at the point where the water drops and hits the water down below. But otherwise, it's a clear photograph, and the mist is not present at the top, nor is it present in the foreground. It's just in that little area there, which adds something to the image in terms of the power of the water that you're experiencing. The next image, of course, with mist, you know you have a good chance, depending on where the sun is, you're going to get a rainbow. And that's what I got here with this image. Much more mist in this image being up closer, and very little bit of the water in the foreground. These are all outdoors in open sun, so you're hand holding your camera. You don't really need a tripod unless you're making a long exposure, or if you are making a personal photograph where you want to be in the image. But otherwise, you can just hand hold your camera for all of these photographs. The next image is a dual rainbow cutting across in a landscape orientation of the same waterfall with the palm tree there at the top. But just a little different. I moved myself closer and to the side to get this image. And the blue sky really plays off the brown color of the water. Now this last picture is a wider view where you can see the amount of mist. It was pretty clear. There are some clouds, but there was a lot of blue sky and sunshine that day. But I was fighting the mist pretty much with every photograph. I had to work with the mist, had to work with the overgrowth. So I hope you are helped by me talking about how I approached them, how I made these photographs, again with the camera settings, fast shutter to freeze that water, low ISO because you're outside in bright sun, hopefully, and how I looked elsewhere for subject matter due to the shortcomings that the mist and the overgrown vegetation provided for making photos of the falls, not to forget the massive amounts of tourists. So I'll wrap up this review of my images of the Iguazu Falls in Argentina and Brazil.
So that was today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Hope you get useful information from it. Stay tuned to my channel because I will be posting more videos in the coming weeks and months. So here we are, finishing up in St. Mark's Square in Venice this morning, Sunday morning. Make sure you like and subscribe to my videos because that helps me and I appreciate the help. Don't forget, if you liked any of the images or if you need photo services, they are available, so just contact me. Anyway, until the next video, from wherever I'll be, this is John Silva Photography. Keep making great photographs, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.